Hello there. Radio 1 proudly presents in two programs the members of Queen, talking about themselves and their music. Queen as they are now were formed in February 1971 and have become one of the most successful rock acts in the world, with over 6 major albums and 10 hit singles. Well, let me introduce you now to the members of Queen. First of all, vocalist and piano player
Freddie Mercury.
On guitar and arranging and writing,
Brian May, I'm here.
on drums,
And occasional vocals, Roger Taylor. Yeah.
welcome Roger, and on bass and electric piano,
John Deacon.
right. Together they've sold over 40 million records worldwide. That's quite something. And first of all, if I can ask you, Freddie, how did it all begin?
Very sort of briefly, Brian and Roger, they were in a sort of very up-tempo, raucous band called Smile, and I used to be in another band called Wreckage or something.
Even more up-tempo, the
Even
name
more-
like Wreckage.
Even more up-tempo. And we used to be friends, I mean, you know, going to college together and sort of met up. And after sort of a couple of years of knowing each other, we just decided we'd form a band together, really. As simple as that. We thought our musical ideas would blend. Then we met John and decided to call the band Queen.
Roger, can we go to the beginnings of the group? You and Freddie were working, or you had a stall right in the Kensington market.
Yes, partners in crime.
Partners in crime.
Yes, it was really just, it was more of a sort of social centre, I think, at the time. At the time, that Queen was sort of in its formative stages, and we were going through all their traumas with trying to find somebody to manage us and find a record company, etc. We sort of slogged our way around, made some demo tapes, etc., through some friends, and then sort of hawked them round the business, as it was, and still is. Eventually sort of securing ourselves several companies who were interested. We then did a gig, I think it was at King's College, somewhere down in South London, and got a load of record companies along, and then we started to sort of try and wheel and deal a bit our way into a sort of good recording situation.
How long did it take you from the time that you'd made the demo to the time that you actually got a recording contract?
It felt like about 80 years, I think.
It was a long time. It was about 2 years. In fact,
Yeah, it was
wasn't
about 18 months, 2 years, yeah.
There was a
Brian, yes.
great deal of feeling of frustration at the time. The first album was really old songs by the time it came out, as far as we were concerned. And it put us in a strange position because there were we were sort of one of the groups who came along with a show and a sort of an idea of a complete production as a stage show and everything. Whereas by the time the record came out, and particularly by the time it got played by anyone and all this, I mean, it takes so long to get things going, it was all sounding like old news, you know, so people were inclined to tag us as the tail end of glitter rock or something.
We've had a fairly sour relationship with the music press, as it's called in this country.
You don't like the music press, I understand.
No, to be perfectly honest, no.
But from the very sort of beginning, I think, as far as the musical press are concerned, I mean, they like, I mean, even now, they like to sort of put sort of up-and-coming bands into a sort of particular bag for what they think. And I think we sort of just rebelled. I mean, we wanted to sort of do what we thought was right and not sort of go along with what they were saying. And I think since the very early stages, there's always been this sort of fracas between...
Yes, it started
between
from
the
day
two
one,
bands.
with
Day
the
one.
release of our first album. Plus the fact that before our first actual release, we were virtually totally unheard of, and then suddenly we were, not particularly famous, but heard of at least. And they always like to think they've got one up on you, and they always like to think they've predicted something. you
Yes.
know. And then all of a sudden there we were, and we were playing to quite a lot of people. And it took people rather by surprise, I think.
Was this style, though, that you had created, was that thought out from the outset, or did it just evolve as time went by?
There were certain kind of ideals which we had in our heads, definitely certain patterns that we wanted to try and live up to. And I think, to put it crudely, we started off thinking that we wanted to be a kind of heavy group, but with good melodies and with good harmonies. And the other things grew out of that. And the first album was really just putting down what we did on stage at the time. It was quick into the studios and quick out. Even at that time, lots of big ideas about what we could do in a studio if we were let loose for a proper time in the studio. But we saved all that up to Queen 2, the second album. But a lot of the Queen 2 stuff was written at the time we made the first album.
OK, well, let's take some music now from Queen 1. The first track we're going to play is like your first single, taken at Queen 1, Keep Yourself Alive. Keep Yourself Alive, your first single. Brian, were you disappointed that this didn't do better?
Oh, yes, yes. It's It takes me back very vividly to the time, actually, because this is just the time when we started. We did a few gigs on our own, so small gigs, and then went on the support tour with Mott the Hoople, and went around the whole country getting really good reactions and thinking, yeah, we're really getting somewhere. And yet all the time we were watching the single and the album and nothing appeared anywhere in the charts, you know. And it just seemed like an impossible wall. We thought, how is it done? You know, we couldn't get the single played on the radio at all, hardly. Well, there's a couple of people that played it, but it didn't get any sort of power play. But there's no doubt that the beginning is the worst. You know, you have no track record, you have no reputation.
John, can I come to you now? We haven't heard you from you, I'm sorry. You got a degree in electronics. Did this mean that the group all came to you and asked you questions when they had complicated bits of machinery to look at?
Not particularly. I used to help a little out in the early days. You know, when we, basically when we started out, there was just the four of us and one guy, our roadie John Harris, who's been with us right from the beginning. And between me and him, we used to do a lot in the early days. But now we have quite a larger crew of about 20 who look after it all for us.
Well, being in a 32-track studio with all the marvellous space-age electronics all around, do you find it difficult to sort of keep your hands off little buttons and say, what's this, what's that?
Well, we do. We all of us try to learn what the studio does. I mean, because it helps to get the sounds and the ideas and to do what you want. And we've all taken interest in what it is possible to do in a studio, technically. You know, because, I mean, I think if a musician doesn't understand that, it limits, the ideas that they can actually put down on tape.
Now, you were playing bass,
yes.
First of all, with Roger?
No, I basically I came down to London to university, and I was here for about 2 years. I wasn't playing at all. I used to play before I came to university in sort of groups at school and things like that, and then I gave it up when I came down. And after I was here for about 2 years, I bumped into, I think it was Roger and Brian somewhere, wasn't I?
Yeah.
And I heard, just socially, because they happened to be at different colleges around the same area in London, and I heard they were looking for a bass player. So I said I was interested, and went along for an audition, really. And it happened like that. I think you've been together for about 6 months previously, haven't you?
I think longer, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Queen?
That's
yeah.
Queen, actually,
Queen
with the
had,
name
yeah.
Queen.
Queen.
No,
Going through about
yes,
3
yeah.
bass players a week at the time,
Yeah,
and we eventually found John.
yeah. Anyway, I seem to fit in, and
Did you immediately agree on the kind of music you wanted to play?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they were already formed. I mean, to me, they had they had all the musical ideas then of what they were trying to do, and I just, and I basically, just fitted in really at that time.
He's very modest.
Yeah. Well, my development came later. It took me a few years to settle in.
Well, John, now it's your personal choice. What would you like to play
Yes,
now?
I'd chosen a track by Marvin Gaye. Heard it through the grapevine. I like a lot of these American sort of Tamla things, but for the bass players, some of the bass players are very nice. And it's a nice atmospheric song.
Okay, here it is. Marvin Gaye, Heard It Through the Grapevine. John, you are a family man, am I right in...
Sort of correct, yes. Yes. I have one little boy, yes.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Do you find it difficult touring in the States and being away from family?
It can be a strain, yeah. I try and make the two work together, which can be difficult, but I try and fit it in.
How does he react to Daddy being a big star?
Well, I don't know. He can't talk yet.
How do you think he will react?
I don't know. We'll see then. He's just starting to talk now, actually. So I'll find out what he's been thinking.
John is also the business brain of the group.
He's a business brain.
I tend to look into that a bit. Yeah, something like that.
So you're examining the contracts and checking on the returns and...
Well, yeah, it's nice. It is, especially when you get to the level we got to. I mean, it's nice to know what's going on.
Brian, you did a degree in physics and then
Yes.
you went on to do a PhD in astronomy.
Yeah.
What was the attraction of astronomy?
Something I'd always been interested in. As a kid, I used to look at the stars, and I built a telescope and things. And it was just something I thought if I ever had the chance to be an astronomer, I would give it a go. So I took a physics degree, and I mean, when you're at school, you don't really know what you're going to do. I think it's still true. When you come out of school, you tend to do what you're best at, and if you happen to be good at physics, everyone tells you should do physics. So I did that, and it happened to be a good thing to lead on to astronomy. So I did some research in astronomy after I got the degree. But at that time, the group began to take off and demand more and more time. So it just became impossible to carry on with the studies, really.
But I believe your PhD thesis, in fact, was practically completely written, wasn't it?
Yes, I did. I spent a long time. I also taught for a while at a comprehensive school to make the money to keep going, and did most of the writing up. But it's just for the sake of that last bit, and I seriously wonder whether it's ever going to get done now.
And what was the thesis on?
Interplanetary dust, motion of dust between us and the sun.
Oh, very cosmic.
Cosmic. Is there a lot of it?
Yes, there's a surprising amount of it, actually, yes. You can, in fact, see it if you're in the right place at the right time. In a very clear sky, in a very dark sky, you can see... you
Tell
can
them
see-
about your
you see the
zodiacal
dust
light.
it's called a
Is it?
zodiacal light, yes.
Oh, there you are.
Which is a sort of milky glow, which looks something like the Milky Way, but it's a cone of light which stretches up with the sun as a centre.
Where did you observe from? Because I'd have thought London sky at night was a bit murky.
Oh, yes. Well, I went to Tenerife. Well, I went to Italy first, in the Italian Alps. We had an observatory there, but that was plagued with bad weather. And we went to Tenerife. We set up an observatory on Tenerife. I actually organised a hut being built, which had not actually a telescope, but a spectroscope, which is what I used.
Well, let's hear some more music, and what we have coming up is The Seven Seas of Rye. I do like to be beside the seaside. Well, that was the single that broke you, The Seven Seas of Rye, that began it all. Roger, why was there a little bit of Seven Seas of Rye on Queen 1 and then repeated on Queen 2?
Well, I think Freddie had half written the song, and we thought it was a nice sort of tail out to the first album. I think we had the idea of starting the second album with the song.
With the finished
With the finished song, yeah. So it would sort of lead in nicely. In fact, we ended the second album with this song, and it had changed a little by then. And we released it as a single because we thought it was fairly strong.
Freddie, if I come to you as the man what wrote it, the lyrics, what does it mean?
Oh, God, you should never ask me that. They're basically, my sort of lyrics are sort of basically for people's interpretations, really. I mean, I think I've forgotten what they're all about.
What were the Seven Seas of Rye?
It's really fictitious. I know it's like sort of bowing out, it's an easy way out, but that's basically what it is. It's just a figment of your imagination. Really.
You have a rather a surrealistic approach. Is that the right word, could I say, to your lyrics?
Good, an imaginative approach, yes.
Imaginative, yes. No, but I mean, it's
an easy way out.
There's
Covers such a lot of area. It really depends on what kind of song, really. I think at that time I was learning about a lot of things, about actual song structure, and as far as lyrics are concerned, they're very difficult as far as I'm concerned. I find them quite a task, and my strongest point is sort of like, say, melody, content, and I basically sort of concentrate on that first, the melody and the song structure, and then the lyrics come afterwards, actually.
Are you influenced by Salvador Dali?
Not really. I sort of I admire him, yes. It's not as involved as that. I don't sort of take things like paintings too literally. The only time I did do that was in a song called Fairy Fella's Masterstroke, where I actually sort of I was thoroughly inspired by a painting by Richard Dadd, which is in the Tate Gallery. And I thought that sort of did a lot of research on it, and it sort of inspired me to write a song about the painting, depicting what I thought I saw in it.
What did you discover in your research about this painting?
It's just because, I mean, I've come through art college and things like that. I basically liked the sort of artist, and I sort of liked the painting, and I thought I'd like to sort of write a song about it.
We're going to play this track, so...
It's on Queen 2. It's one of our first major experiments in stereo, I think.
How do you sort out which songs are going to go onto an album? Because you all write, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
We row.
Yeah.
Argue.
Yeah.
We do write individually, so I mean, like, so we go our separate ways for whenever the tour's over or whatever. And then we sort of have a routining period where we sort of get together and sort of play each other the new songs. And then what happens is a sort of a very huge sifting process where we sort of find out what songs...
Like, no way am I going to play that, or...
things like that. And we always
Forget
work
it.
it. Also, sort of, as far as the individual song is concerned, and also what will go with how the songs will sort of sound with each other. So it's basically sort of looking in terms of an album as opposed to just individual songs.
Yeah, we have tried in the past to provide a lot of variety on each album, and a lot of contrasts, and so we've had to sort of have a good cross-section of material.
All right, well, let's hear some from Queen 2, March of the Black Queen. Brian, you can say something about Queen.
I thought it was a good idea to play that because Queen 2 is an album which, in some ways, is the root of all that happened thereafter, I think. And I don't. If people haven't heard that before, I think you could hear that and think that that was something off the new album. Really, it still sounds that fresh to me. And there are a lot of things that you can hear. All the sort of texture work was there, and the intricate harmonies, the guitar harmonies and stuff. Sort of the precursor of Bohemian Rhapsody in many ways. So I think that was a very important album for us. It was also the first one which came into the charts.
How long did March of the Black Queen take you to record?
The tape went transparent.
Yeah,
Genuinely.
Yeah.
Those were the days of 16-track studios, and I think, wasn't it?
Yes, it was 16-track.
You have now 24 and 32-track. But I mean, as we did so many overdubs, I mean, on 16-track, it was like we just kept piling it on and on and on. It was like, that's what Roger means when the tape went transparent, because it just couldn't take anymore. I think it snapped in about 2 places.
It'd gone over the head so many times, overdubbing. The oxide had worn off.
It was a big step for us at the time, certainly, because no one was really doing that kind of thing in those days.
In fact, when this album came out, we were doing our own first headlining tour after supporting Mott the Hoople and gaining an enormous amount of live experience and a large following, really, for a relatively new band.
Well, then, Roger, you went on to support Mott the Hoople in the States, right?
Yeah. It seemed a logical step because it had worked so well, and we got on with them very well personally as well, which doesn't always happen on tours, you know. It's always good if the bands that are touring together do get on well. And so we really took the logical step and went to America with them as well. And we did learn quite a lot of them. They were a really good live band.
Excellent live band, yeah.
We had a very good American tour, up to the point when Brian got hepatitis and collapsed, and we had to come home. At which point things looked very black.
Well, then you did an extraordinary thing. Having supported once in England and having supported once in the States, you then went to headline straight away in England, and then you went to headline straight away in the States.
It was quite rare then, yeah, because we did go to sort of playing the Rainbow by ourselves in one sort of step.
We did take a lot of risks, actually. I think most of them paid off.
Yeah, most of them.
In the States, you got yourselves an American manager.
Well, we already had him, in fact. He was taken on by... But it helped us for when we went to America. He was taken on by Trident, which is the company which we were signed to at the time, a sort of production deal. And I think he helped in many ways with our introduction to America, being a Yank, you know. He was from California.
Basically, I think we'd signed all the deals, I mean, the recording deals and the publishing deals. So, in effect, we were signed to Trident, and at a later stage, Jack Nelson, who's the person we're talking about, came in to sort of look after the management side of things. So he was brought in at a later stage.
Yeah,
sure.
We should make it a little clear. When we came to the point of signing record contracts, there was a few record companies who were interested, but instead of doing that, we signed to a production company, and the deal is that you record for them, and they then do a deal with the record company. So you have a kind of middleman. And Trident with this middleman.
At the time, it seems a good idea because an established company, a fairly high-power established company, seems more able to deal with the fairly high-powered record companies than the mere novice, humble musicians.
£20 a week musicians.
There is a huge basic drawback in the fact that your manager is then your record company, and you don't have anyone who can represent you to the record company. So you have an impossible situation where it's basically the band against everyone else, and it generated friction in every department.
All right, well, now we come on to your third album, Sheer Heart Attack, and the biggest hit from that, which went to number 2 in November 74, was Killer Queen. Was this written about a lovely lady of your acquaintance then?
No, another fictitious person.
I mean, there's wonderful lyrics, and there's dynamite with a laser beam guaranteed to blow your mind, gunpowder, gelatine, I mean, marvellous stuff. But we're not going to get any clues. This society...
I think if I was to sort of analyse every verse, it would be very boring for the listeners, and it might sort of shatter a few illusions that others sort of kept it.
It's one that sticks in the mind, so anyway. It's very obvious that you're a painstakingly thorough, very methodical group. I mean, you're a perfectionist.
God, that sounds really boring, doesn't it?
No, but I mean, I think... it's much to be admired, the fact that you go into every facet of production, not only just the music, you know, you see it right down to the last dot, as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, we always thought that was essential, not only in the production but in every detail that we're
We learned
involved
through
in.
hard experience, really.
Yeah, I mean, right down to the last bit of print on the record cover and the way it's cut on the album, which is crucial, right down to the way the tours are set up. Everything we try to keep control of.
Because where
And
there's
it's
a lot
not
of,
easy.
there's so much money involved these days. I mean, it's sort of almost sordid to talk about the amounts of money, but they are involved. And people are very clever, and nothing corrupts like large sums of money. And so we do have to be very careful.
Let's go on to another track from Sheer Heart Attack. It's Bring Back That Leroy Brown. Bring Back That Leroy Brown with a ukulele novelty from Brian May there. Brian, what would you describe this ukulele-type music as? As barbershop ukulele?
The
George
ukule-
Formby?
Yeah, the ukulele in a way was incidental to that, because that was Freddie's song, and it had this kind of vaudeville atmosphere, and I just thought the ukulele would go nicely on it, and we sort of worked it so that it could be done. And I managed to fiddle a little ukulele solo.
You, in fact, learnt on a ukulele, right?
Yes, that was the first instrument I ever played. My father had a genuine George Formby ukulele. George Formby was really the originator of that kind of style of playing, which is rhythmic and slightly melodic at the same time, because he plays across the top and bottom strings to make little melodies. And I'm really a pretty poor imitator of that style, but I got interested in it from
Makes you sick, doesn't
Oh,
it?
sorry.
Modesty.
And I believe your father also was
that's
instrumental
true.
in making your first guitar?
Yes, my father and I made the guitar together, which is still the one I use all the time.
And what was it made out of?
Lumps of wood and bits and pieces. It cost about £8 to make in the beginning.
I mean, I read in a press biography, I think it was something about an armchair or a fireplace.
The 100-year-old fireplace, the legendary fireplace. Yes,
The things that are coming out of
that's the
that
thing.
fireplace. Quite
The
staggering.
neck was made out of an old fireplace, yes.
My goodness, he must have been quite a craftsman.
Well, we just worked at it for a couple of years, because I was at school and it was evenings and weekends and things.
I see. And that's still the one you play now?
Yes.
Oh, terrific. Well, it must be worth a fortune in years to come. So.
I don't know, really. It's really not worth very much to anyone except me, because everyone finds it difficult to play.
Can we come now to your producer, Roy Thomas Baker?
Roy half produced the first album, and then he went on to become a full producer. And I think Night at the Opera was the last one, and we co-produced it with him.
Freddie, did you select him, or did EMI provide him?
Well, it was through Trident, really.
It was all through Trident, yeah.
Because in the early days, the first album, and then we had they stuck us with John Anthony, didn't they, as well? We didn't really get on with him, so we gave him the elbow after one album. And then we did the second album with Roy and Robin Cable.
Yeah, Trident was quite a mecca for producers at the time, because I remember sort of all of Bowie's most successful stuff was done with Ken Scott there.
Yeah.
Let's have another track from Sheer Heart Attack. This is In the Lap of the Gods. The Beach Boys meet Wagner, or something like that, anyway. Freddie, was this a sort of pre-runner to Bohemian Rhapsody? It has that sort of operatic feel to
I
it.
suppose it could be put across that way. Yes, I'm sort of learning a lot on Sheer Heart Attack. We're sort of doing a lot of things that was to come in future albums, or was to sort of be used on the future albums. And songs like that, yes, I suppose working out the kind of harmonies and things and the song structure did help a lot in, say, something like Bohemian Rhapsody. Somebody said this was something like Cecil B. DeMille meets Walt Disney or something, which is more to the point than, say, the Beach Boys.
Wagner meets the Beach Boys, yes. Well, now, talking about Cecil B. DeMille, can we come to your colossal stage productions with
Oh, yes, and that's
crowns
of course.
appearing everywhere, thunder flashes all over the stage, and you leaping about, bringing ballet to the masses, I believe a quote was.
Oh, I mean, if you're referring to sort of a certain article about all that, that's meant to be taken tongue-in-cheek. But, I mean, it's just that at this point in time, that's something that sort of interests me. And I'm just trying to incorporate it in the stage act. Nothing more, really. And it's basically to enhance the music we play. I mean, if it wasn't working, then I wouldn't do it. And it's also a phase that I'm going through. And I like the Nijinsky costume.
The people who come to the show seem to really enjoy them, because you must aim for maximum effect, which we do. I mean, both orally and visually. However, some sort of people don't seem to like this, the so-called purists or whatever, and they think it's techno flash rock or something, I've heard it called. But basically, we're just trying to put over the music and the visual aspect as effectively as we can to as many people as we can.
Do you carry your own lighting crew all over the world?
Yes.
So it's the same one that was at Earlscourt that was in the States, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it has to be, because the coordination required is quite unbelievable.
And the same for the sound setup. The way we started off, we always had these big ideas, and we always thought that it should be a visual and a sound experience. It should be a complete thing that you can wallow in, you know. I think it comes from when we were kids. If we went to see a rock band, we wanted to be knocked out, we wanted to be blown away.
Yeah.
You know, and
Stunned.
yeah, it's for that kind of thing. We think it should be a real event every time we play.
People are paying money to come and see you. So
Yes,
I mean,
as far as we're concerned, we're
You-
putting on a show. It's not just us, just another rendition of an album. If that was the case, we might as well just have sort of cardboard cutouts and just play the album through the sort of system.
I mean, that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Let's have some more music. The next one from Sheer Heart Attack we're going to play is Now I'm Here.
call that music.
Now I'm Here, which went to number 11 in February 75. Do you find that the single helps you generate sale of an album?
Definitely. That's what gets you to the mass of people. Even if they don't buy it, and even if they don't like it, they still know who you are from a single. Whereas I think you could have a number one album for 6 months and people still wouldn't know who you were. But we never record any record as a single. It's always just a track off an album that we think might make a good single after we've recorded it.
Oh, I see. So you don't go into the studio, this is going to be the one?
No, never. We never have.
Do you take advice from other people as to what
No.
could be a good single?
Never.
No.
Next.
It never works.
Nobody wanted Bohemian Rhapsody as a single, really.
Really?
Around us, everyone says no one would play it because it was too long and all that stuff.
Nobody except us wanted it.
But this is not to say that we're always right, because we're not.
Well, we're not always right. We've
Choice
been wrong.
of the single is
Yeah, once.
a very difficult thing. I mean, there's no sure fire hit, you know. It's just, there's no such thing. And with, say, something like Bohemian Rhapsody, it was a big risk and it worked.
Yeah.
Because I think with a song like that, it was either going to be a huge success or a terrific flop.
Mm.
And, you know, it was...
But it's been
We
no
were
bed
lucky.
of roses.
No pleasure cruise. No.
Well, we're talking about Bohemian Rhapsody, so let's play Bohemian Rhapsody now. Bohemian Rhapsody. This was, for me, so amazing because it was such a departure from anything else that was in the charts in 75. In November it got to number 1 and stayed there for 9 weeks, I think, didn't it? Amazing.
Something like that, yeah.
Terrific amount of time. Anyway, yonks and yonks, and it was fabulous. Freddie, can you tell us a bit about how you recorded Bohemian Rhapsody, the actual technical side of it?
You want a few trade secrets. It was quite a mammoth task because it was basically done in three definite sections and just pieced together. And each one required a lot of concentration. The opera section in the middle was the most taxing, I think, because we wanted to recreate a sort of huge operatic sort of harmony section between just the three of us. And that involves a lot of multi-tracking and things. And I think between the three of us, we sort of we recreated a sort of 160 to 200 piece
Something
choir
like that, yeah.
effect between just the three of us, as Brian, Roger and myself.
There's a tremendous range
just
of
singing it.
harmonies, and
Yes.
it involves doing it again and again and again and again to make it sound bigger and bigger and bigger.
Can you think how many times to get that number of people?
Well, divide 200 by 3. Something like that.
Yeah, 66.
It's just for each little part. So
Each
if you
little bit,
multiply
though,
that by...
has to be done that many times. And you have to learn all the very different parts. But I think some of them were... What, how many part harmonies?
Because I mean, like there was a section of no, 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 and we had to sort of do that and sort of different escalating things, and we just sat there going no, 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 about, I don't know, 150 times.
Going out of our minds.
Does one of you every now and again say, no more, that's it?
Oh yes,
All the
Yeah, all the
time.
time, yeah.
all the time.
But then the others sort of egg him on and say, well, it's only one more or
Depends
something.
on who's.
No, everybody
track
agrees and we
everything.
leave.
Well, we come now to Freddie's personal choice of music. Freddie, what's it going to be?
I've sort of chosen an Aretha Franklin track. I think it's called "You've Got a Friend." It's from the Amazing Grace album, which she did a long time ago. It's a live, so I think, double album set. It's a sort of gospel thing which she did live in a church in California, I think. It's called "You Got a Friend."
Freddie Mercury's choice there from Aretha Franklin.